Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN. Worldwide.
Welcome, Shadowland Voyagers. In the spirit of sovereignty and self-empowerment, we invite you to journey with us into the Shadowland. Let's rediscover, reclaim, and integrate the fragmented aspects of our individual and collectively held consciousness. Realize true freedom and restore authentic expression. Could it be the only way out is through the Shadowland?
We're live. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Sienna Leah, and I'm here with Christina Grant.
Hello, everybody.
And Elizabeth Hansen.
Hello, everybody.
And this is Shadowland Voyagers. Tonight's episode, we are going to have a roundtable discussion about one of our greatest geniuses, Carl Jung. He was a longtime friend of Freud. Through his deep inner integrity, Jung blew the whistle on the truth of the human psyche and broke bonds with Freud and Freud's diagram of sexual repression as being the key factor to all of human dysfunction. Jung declared that humanity was at the core an evolving spiritual being. But to realize this authentic potential, we would all have to voyage into our shadow selves, even though it was hidden in the blind spot where culture had us programmed to see it as forbidden and to never look at it. So integrating the shadow self was a path to a humane future. This made him a renegade. Risking his reputation and fame and fortune, Carl Jung took himself out of the mainstream into his own inner sanctuary and voyaged into his own shadowland. His bravery is a profound and necessary gift for each one of us. And right now, as we're struggling with so many shadow aspects in the outer world, scarcity, war, prejudice, global apocalypse, we look to Freud, and we are going to open most gratefully to his life, to his wisdom tonight, and we're deeply honored to be a part of his message. We see him as a huge beacon of light to the collective darkness. Who was this man? What exactly had he discovered that now promises a corrective evolutionary course for us all? So, ladies, are we here?
Yes, we are here.
Yes, we are here.
Okay. So how are y'all doing in there?
Very good. You did a wonderful job introducing Carl Jung. He's an amazing man, and I look forward to getting into discussions about some of the things that he talked about. So,
okay, let's jump into this. So,
we're now going to break.
You know about Carla. Oh, okay, all right. Take a deep breath. of psychology, but one that you don't hear about nearly as often as Freud, which is interesting because Carl Jung offered a spiritual core to the human being that Freud did not share. And most of modern Western culture was Freud obsessed. There's always a contingent for Jung, but he wasn't in the foreground. He was in the background, as most of the true wisdom is. So, ladies, what do we know about Carl Jung?
Well, I have to say that I had heard of Carl Jung throughout my life. I'd heard his name, but I actually didn't know his life story or what his theories were until this week, preparing for this show. And it's been really fun for me to learn about all this and discover that much of his understandings actually matched the ones I have also discovered on my journey. So that really came as a surprise and was really fun to discover.
Yes. Eternal truths in different aspects of the century. He died in 61, I believe. And so he did this with zero support. He took himself, from what I understand, correct me if you have different information here, he was becoming world famous. He, Freud, and Adler were the fathers of modern psychology. But he started to listen to the beat of a different drummer. He sensed that there was something in the shadow self that needed to be addressed. And his perspective on it was so radical, he got a lot of flack for this. He got a lot of attack for this. And he lost his position. He walked away from fame, from fortune, from the spotlight, went off and did profound inner work and research to discover the true nature of the psyche as was revealed in a book that just came out recently called The Red Book, which was Jung taking himself through his own Shadowland, which is just, looks like an incredible, with amazing artwork and unflinching self-honesty to go into his own Shadowland.
Yeah, and the thing I discovered in the research I was doing was that he was much more than a psychologist. He was just as much really an anthropologist in the sense that he traveled the world and he studied different cultures. He studied, Eastern mysticism and astrology and all these, alchemy, the Gnostic texts. I mean, he was very, very broad with his knowledge base and where he got his information, and he was kind of very esoteric. So I can see why he wasn't really accepted in modern mainstream psychology then, or maybe even now.
Yeah, the thing that was so poignant for me about him was I was listening to the Alan Watts did a little special on Carl Jung right after he passed away, and he was mentioning how to sit down and talk to Carl Jung, you got a sense of encouragement and this uncanny lack of judgment from him. And what was said about that is that he just, like if he felt anxious, afraid, or guilty, he would experience that feeling without feeling ashamed. And he knew that anything that any villain that he saw outside of himself was also in him. And that, like, just Alan Watts' description of how others felt around him, more of an encouragement, and an understanding and at ease with him in talking about these kinds of things.
Yeah, that's so incredible, and it's such a poignant mirror for us all that this man that was so brilliant and so greatly respected and really changed the course of our understanding of the human psyche, struggled with the insecurities, with all kinds of shadow aspects. And I read that too. I was just so amazed and humbled, and to tap into Jung this week as well, because he didn't even espouse that he was going to override or transmute or transcend his shadow aspects. He really felt that the way that we're going to come through the darkness and our attachment and our addiction and our contracts with the darkness of this prison planet is to really own the darkness in ourselves. And he did this. He didn't just talk about it. He did it. And in that place of non-judgment, is that not judging, having to live with some really uncomfortable shadow aspects in himself, he was not like going to the presence of a guru, or where you feel less than. You feel like, oh, that man has the wisdom. I need to learn from them. I need to give myself to them. No, you were in this field, this incredible humanity with him that allowed you to tap into your own humanity. Am I getting that right? Because that was the sense I had, because I watched that one too. That was such an amazing a video by Alan Watts, what it was like to be with Carl Jung.
I think he was basically embodying that which it takes to work through this stuff inside of oneself. So it's the judgment that provides an obstruction to actually going into that location in your psyche. It's the judgment itself, the one that says, or it defies the false picture of self, where you have this pretty little picture that, you know that that's how you're acting with people. You put on the mask, and then that's how you present yourself in those roles. And it's the unconscious false picture that we put there that kind of assists us in our childhood. And we just kind of it gets more sophisticated as we get older. And those things that come up within our shadow self, those things that we do in an unconscious way that harm others and harm ourselves, goes unseen because it doesn't reflect within that false picture. So, and I think that because there's that false picture, there's a judgment against any action that goes against that. And so I think what's happening with Carl Jung is that he's kind of removed that false picture and seen the villain inside of himself, faced his own shadow, his own demon, his own dark side, the monster, the one that cages the soul. He faced that, and there was some discussion that he understood how one could justify the heinous crimes such as what happened during the Holocaust. How you could be an SS sergeant and stand and do those things, and an understanding of how that was justified from the light that they had at that moment.
But he did not justify. That's what they accused him of, that he was justifying. Yeah. They really demonized him because he could not demonize the Hitler. He knew that there was a Hitler inside of all of us to a greater or lesser extent, and that for there not to be an external Hitler, for us not to have to create one on the outside and be complicit with him, that we would have to find the one on the inside. So that was his point, but people did not understand what he was talking about.
Yeah. His insights into his own deep shadow self revealed, and this is kind of what Alan Watts was talking about, that to the degree that one becomes conscious of their own shadow is to the degree that is not projected outward, which is what Hitler was doing. Or looking at it another way is to the degree that one condemns, approves, likes, dislikes others is the same degree that you're not conscious of that in yourself. It's like those aspects are still yet to be owned. And that he actually said, he put it, you had to accept your own dark side.
Yes. Can I throw a quote out here into the stew tonight?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, here's one from him. Unfortunately, there can be no doubt that man is, on the whole, less good than he imagines himself or wants to be. Everyone carries a shadow, And the less it is embodied in the individual conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. If an inferiority is conscious, one always has a chance to correct it. Furthermore, it is constantly in contact with other interests so that it is continually subjected to modifications. But if it is repressed and isolated from consciousness, it never gets corrected. I mean, that's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you all, but I know. I mean, of course, we all are. There are all parts of my shadow that are still, hiding from. I am not through all of this. But I have had cases of people that I've seen this where they do not want to face. Maybe they were a pedophile, for example, and they know it's bad now. They've never done it again, and they just want it. They use a lot these seminars that say that you can go back in time and you can erase things and pretend like it never existed, and all of this rewriting stuff, which it has its own valid place. But the thing is that I think that we are absolutely phobically addicted to overjumping the shadow. So many of the current New Age philosophies, religions, I mean, when you break it down, and we will, almost all of it has built in, don't ever admit that this exists. I mean, we are taught this, right? Be a nice little girl. We are, all the polite little niceties of society are creating this veneer, and underneath is this aspect of the self. And this is actually the plot of the dark side, to create societies with this kind of repression where the authentic energies, whether they're dark or light, never get expression. Why? Because all of that it can be manipulated then. That's all food for the dark side. And we need, I mean, this is why we've come together in the show, basically, to hit it from every kind of angle we can, to bring other people on that have wisdom and understanding. Why? Because we are holding it tight to our chest, the collectively held belief that the shadow needs to go bye-bye. Now. We don't need to really experience it. We don't need to really face it. Everything but that has been the solution so far. And look where we are. On the vote of the global annihilation.
Yeah.
Shadow is in charge. Well, we're projecting it out there.
Yeah. Well, Jung maintained that he felt that modern man, not, the more primitive societies, but modern man in particular had lost connection to his soul. And he believed that in order to reconnect with this deeper part, this sort of true part of the self, that you had to take responsibility for their shadow, which keeps the consciousness fragmented and disassociated from that true self. And so in order to do that was to embrace those aspects and to be a friend of your inner self and not an enemy. So it's about, just reconnecting with that part that's deep down in there. He also said that he felt there was a veil, that kind of separated, the outer, what he called the persona, with the inner self, the shadow, and that you had to kind of get below that, veil or wall. I think you might have used the term wall, I'm not sure, to get down in there.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. When we talk about the prison planet, these mechanisms are this veil, this wall. That's an inner prison. The inner structure is truly mirrored on the outer. We become we're seeing all the enslavement that we've been a part of for so very long. And this is layered into our own psychological structure. The psychological structure exists. We don't see it. It's invisible, but we have it. And this is where we're going to get our true sovereignty and our true freedom, is breaking the chains, breaking through the veil, owning what's there, no longer demonizing it. And it's completely going against the mainstream concept, the social conditioning. It is going against so much of what we believe, what we want to believe, what we've been trained to believe, that we can go in there and do this inside job to clean clean this up? And how do we even get down there and do it? I mean, the three of us are on the same page. We believe in doing this work. Are we perfectly integrated women? No. Are we actively engaged in this process through a radical self-responsibility? Yes. But it is true that the majority of human beings are still fleeing with all their might from the shadow aspects of their psyche. And so part of the task is to demystify. People are so frightened that they're going to get sucked down in a black hole of hell and never return if they jump into their shadow aspects.
It's so funny because I just before we got on, I caught a video that someone was reading out of Jung's personal works, and the question came up: is there any one of you who can be spared the way? And you should all become Christ in consciousness. So I think that is, he asked that question. You know, we're all here experiencing this particular reality, and this particular reality is asking us to bring union to light and dark and opposites.
Yeah, absolutely. He believed that was how a person became authentic, was to face the inner darkness of light and dark and bring them into balance. And he called this centering. He came up with that term, centering, and how a person, sound familiar? And how a person became their true self. I mean, that's what we've all discovered as well. So I'm just blown away. I was like, wow, this guy was rad. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Like 100 years ago. I mean, that must have been a really lonely path. I have great respect for you, Carl, for holding this space. One person can change the course. And it feels, when somebody is that brave, it really feels to honor him and to take his wisdom and to make something of it now, to not, most of Freudian psychology is dream analysis. When I said Freud, I meant Jungian psychology is dream analysis, and yet the actual process of individuation is actually an organic correction. It's the birth of the self. It is the individuation process that takes people out of this collective addiction to collective hive minds, to the collective that creates these, like Nazi Germany. This was an acting out of individual and collective shadow, but to not keep repeating history, then this piece needs to be brought forward. I have one more quote. We're about to go to another break, aren't we?
Yes. Okay. About 10 seconds.
All right. So hang on. Join us at the other end of the break. We're going to be taking calls in the second hour. You can add your comments to the chat box here. You can also go to shadowlandforum.com, where we have threads where you can Welcome back, everyone. You're here with Christina, Elizabeth, and Sienna. And tonight is a tribute to Carl Jung. We're going to be taking your calls at the top of the hour. Please join the chat box if you have any questions or queries. Or for further development on these topics, visit www.shadowlandforum.com. Okay, I have a quote. You there, ladies?
Yes.
All right.
I am here.
This is one that talks about a lot of the different aspects we're talking about. There is a deep gulf between what a man is and what he represents, between what he is as an individual and what he is as a collective being. His function is developed at the expense of his individuality. And that's a really important point, because I think that right now there's so much input from false gurus, false gods, false authorities in so many ways, and people are so desperate to stay away from because they don't know how to transmute the actual inner demons that they carry, and so it's so much more of a quick fix to go in denial and to give our reality to these, as George Cavasla says, the hive minds. They're doing massive recruitings with the love and lighters. We're in a huge, and I'm hoping to devote a whole show to this soon. We're in a huge wave of getting. We're so starved for the light. We're so starved for solution, and we're so starved for love and to feel better that the notion that the real evolutionary fix is in integrating shadow aspects is not that attractive to people, and yet it is where we're going to make this evolutionary, where we're going to find the real healing. And that's such a hard thing for people to deal with right now.
Yeah, it's almost like it takes one to have their eyes open to see that their behavior is actually defiling what they are. Their divinity. It defiles their divinity, and until one actually kind of turns about face and says, what is actually going on here? It seems like an endless contract.
I've been so shocked because I have run into people that are really brilliant, paradigm-shifting geniuses. This isn't just, for the people that are, hanging out in the bars with the dark energies and, just the low lives and all. This is at the top of the evolutionary dialogue. I am finding that we have a gigantic aversion to voyaging into the Shadowland. Not with you two, though.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because I went ahead and voyaged a bit through the years, and it was all kind of small stuff, where I would see that I was judging someone else or whatnot in these small little things that maybe didn't really affect anyone. Just things going on in my head, little observations of relationships and stuff like that. And there was always this one little thing that I didn't want to look at. And it just got more and more intense through the years, So I think, it's the core. And I think, when people are, doing all of these things, there are like these basic urges that are at the core of basic desires. And the one that I found the most was that I wanted to be approved of. I wanted to have some significance in my world. With the people that I was with, I wanted to be taken seriously, and ultimately, I wanted to be loved. But in all these little things that we do in relationships with people are all in an attempt to fill that hole in our guts that says, we're unlovable and we're not loved and we're not worthy, So.
Well, yeah, and this is all very relevant, and thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say my appreciation to you, Elizabeth, and you, Christina, because I know the sincerity that you're coming at this with. That you are true Shadowland Voyagers in your own world, but coming out of the closet and speaking to the world from your heart and your soul about something is so important, but is really so still demonized in some ways, is really incredibly brave. And I don't think I would continue going on if it wasn't for you two jumping in going, no, Sienna, we need to keep doing this, because I feel it tonight. I feel like a psychic pressure. I feel a wall like pushing up against me. It feels like we're chiseling through granite.
It sure does.
To say any words about this. And because that's what happens when you start speaking at this level. The collective notices, and they start putting energetic pressure. I mean, we know these things with HARP, and we know all the kind of ways that we're attacked. But when we start moving, breaking, blowing the whistle on the inner shadow, why? Because this is where they're really feeding off of us. This is where the dark side, we've just been free breakfast, lunch, and dinner for eons because our authentic self is being held in oppression, a low vibe, psychic, emotional energy. That is what the reptiles feed on. That's what these hive mind races are feeding off of. They do not want you to know that you can fix this, that's all just grist for your transmutation. That's fuel. Your shadow energies are fuel to light your inner fire, the fire of your soul. It belongs to you. It does not belong to them. And they don't want us to come out and speak. It's really hard to show up for this. Poor me. I don't mean to go there, but I almost want to say this as just a little exorcism moment, just to get, push back on this energy, because I feel like I'm being strangled just even in trying to open my mouth and speak tonight about this with you all. It's just the energy is not flowing. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know how the rest of you are feeling, but I think it's totally fair to take a moment just to empower yourself with sharing what your reality is at the moment, so we can move through this energy.
Well, I definitely agree with you on that, because the thing is, when we don't reintegrate these aspects, like you said, they are food for, let's call them, what's the other term I like to use? I'm having a total block right now. With just the agenda. That's against life. Okay, we'll call it that.
Okay.
But the thing is, when you have these aspects, they create, because they're projected outward, because we have not owned them yet. So we project them outward, and then we find ourselves in confrontation with people, and so we are creating these situations unconsciously that end up creating a huge energetic charge that is what's being fed off of. So it's so important to own these things, because then, like you said, you have control of your energy.
Right.
Use it in harmony with life. Yeah.
Yeah, because, we say, the prison planet, all of the suppression and the chemtrails and the HARP and the wars and the scarcity and the control. I mean, who would want this? But from my understanding and my direct experience, these entities that have been impacting the prison state of this planet really do feed off of the lower frequency. When you take back your energy and lift yourself to a higher vibe, it's game over. You have reclaimed your own sovereignty, your own spirit, your own light, and you are no longer food for them. And they're more afraid of this than anything. They want us to be all out there, oh my God, look at this, oh my God, look at that, and get swept up in the fear and all of the negativity. And yet, the choice that we have is not just to rise to a higher frequency, but to uproot, to disconnect with those contracts, with those cords, with those sucking mechanisms they have way deep inside of us, and reclaim our chi, this huge force field. Most of the juicy energy is in the shadow because of how the dark has structured our unconscious. This is, I hope we can get Michael Tresarian on. He really has a great understanding of what happened through the various traumas, through eons. It's recorded in our body, soul's memory that keep us in these states. It's not like we're bad, that we did this to ourselves because we're just bad. This was done to us. It is true we contracted to learn these hard lessons, but at the same time, we're in a gigantic drama that we at least need to see how we got this way. And we will in the coming weeks ahead, and need to see what the real structure is. And we need to see what the real path out of it is. And that's why we're talking about voyaging through the Shadowland, because that's where all the real fuel, our jet fuel for our ascension process, is being held by the dark ones. And we are scared we are scared. We are unbelievably scared of our own shadows.
I'm going to go back to Carl Jung again and this central point that you brought up, Christina, because I think it has a huge value at this time, actually. There's this quote, "The energy of the central point is manifested in the almost irresistible compulsion and urge to become what one is." And I think this is the driving force of what will what actually brings you to that place of where you surrender and become the observer of who is actually driving the vessel. And that's when it begins, because you start to see the heinous crimes being acted out in the behavior, and that false picture of self is what keeps you from looking at it. You know, that vanity, the one that says, you know, that I would never do something like that, you know, but they didn't check their motivations behind that pleasing act that they did, or what, you know, however it gets constructed for each particular urge. But I think that is, it is like walking through mud tonight, Sienna, I gotta say.
Oh, it is. It's terrific. It's really like, usually you get on a groove and the energy shifts and we're, you know, but not tonight. No, they're not going to make this.
No,
that shows you we're right on it. We're right on it. Persist.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just have to persist. One, you know, cleat boot after another. So that's where we get our dedication to show up for consciousness, no matter what. Because sometimes it's not, but that was a mouthful, girl. And I know I can feel you trying to penetrate something, and it's just the energy's making it. But
there is this central drive that compulsion and urge, like Carl Jung talks about it, to become exactly what we are.
Amen and hallelujah to that one.
And that's what gives us the strength to do this shadow work and to actually say, you know what, I am going to be honest right now, and I'm going to look at exactly what just happened. For real, be honest inside, and you don't even have to tell anybody. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of this work, at this point, we could probably go into the dark night of the soul too, because this is all-encompassing. I just have to say this. I went through the dark night of the soul. I talked about that last week for a lengthy period of time. And I kind of looked up some definitions of dark night of the soul. And here's some things I came up with. A lengthy and profound absence of light and hope. In the dark night, you feel profoundly alone. To one engaged in the dark night, suffering seems unending. An initiation before one is admitted into regular relationship with higher self. Symbolized by autumn, dying to winter, death. So, you know, this is one of those things that I faced because I was completely resistant to what my higher self was trying to get me to see, that I didn't love myself. And therefore, all this stuff I thought about myself, I'm so loving, I'm so gracious, I'm so giving and compassionate, I actually lost access to all of those beautiful things. Because I didn't love myself. And I kept, you know, and it just got more and more intense in relationships to the point where I found myself completely alone, you know, partly by choice, but, you know, there were people that wanted to get in touch with me, and I'm like, I you know, it's getting real dark in here, you know, because I was getting to the point where I couldn't act in authenticity, and I felt so like confined. Anything I did, I knew they were just judging me, and so that judging was being reflected in the outer world that was going on inside, and it was just excruciating. And you know, there was only one way out for me at that moment. So, you know,
and what was that? Don't stop there. What was it?
Journey into the Shadowland. I became a Shadowland Voyager.
It wasn't ice cream. Oh, darn.
Sure. You know, and I have to tell you though, after doing just a little bit, it's like there was so much grace being poured into my life. Even now, it's just like being poured into my life. The more I'm willing to stop and say, wait a minute, let's look at this from different perspectives. You know, you don't have to sit on any one perspective, but just get outside the box. Get outside of the constant mantras going on in your head about how you've been screwed by everybody. You know, that was the thing. It was everybody else's fault constantly. You know, and people were intentionally trying to hurt me. That's what I thought. Yeah.
And now, as we are 6 weeks away from December 21st, 2012, I mean, wow. As all of these planets and planes and are shifting into alignment with galactic center, then this irrepressible impulse to be all that we authentically are, and the love and the support that's flooding into our neural net to support that is so gigantic, and what is in the way of that are these shadow aspects. So they are hurling up on the planetary stage, and if even some of us would be brave enough to own it, to go there, as Carl Jung, which was maybe one of our very first role models. Of course, we have indigenous people that, took their journeys into the dark through time immemorial in cultures and mythological cultures. But to popularize it, this is what Jung did. He was so dedicated to the shift that he sensed it, that he had to go into that dark night and not come out until he sensed that reconnection to his higher ability to individuate. And it was that dedication that birthed that whole realization, as you're talking about. So that's an amazing human quality, that a human being would turn and walk into the darkness. That is the true hero, and the heroine, and the hero's journey of all mythology is sensing that journey needs to be actualized. No?
Yeah. I love the fact that Jung saw it as an opportunity, not as something to resist or drug, and as an opportunity to go into this sort of a deep meditation and transformation. He called it a confrontation with the unconscious, and I've had 3, what you would call, I guess, dark nights of the soul in my life. And the first one when I was about 15, which led to an attempted suicide. The second was in 1996 when I was 23, 24. And that led me to 7 months in Mount Shasta, which at the time I didn't even know that was a spiritual mecca. I was literally called there by my intuitive guidance. And the last one took place in January and February of this year. And this is the one that led to these actual realizations that Jung had also discovered, and what also led me to do this show and why I'm so passionate and dedicated to this. But basically, my inner and outer worlds came to a crashing head and sort of forced me into a spiritual crisis. And actually, I moved out and I rented a little studio by the bay. I called it my spiritual retreat. And it was just such a great place to be. It was so comforting and just healing. And I'm just so grateful to the woman who rented it to me. And actually, there was quite a lot of synchronicity leading up to this event and surrounding it as well. She had gone through her own crisis 3 years before and sort of up and separated from her husband, a perfectly good marriage as well, and to find herself. So that was really comforting to be living on her property with her. And anyways, it was
that's so amazing. Excuse me, I want you to go on, but it's so amazing to hear you say, I had to leave everything. There was an attempted suicide. I had to move out. I had to and yet it was so comforting. What about that was comforting, if you could share that with us? Because even as you talk about it, I feel a joy, and I feel your female essence, right? That there was, but I'd love to hear in your words.
Yeah, it's because, it was incredibly lonely. And it was excruciatingly painful at times. There were literally moments I thought I was not going to survive. I thought I was going to die a couple times just of pain and sheer, just, it was terrible. But there was a joy in it in a sense because I did what Jung did, which was embrace it. I saw it as an opportunity to, I guess, I didn't see it at the time to reinvent myself, but I knew that I had to move deeper and deeper into myself to uncover the primary aspects that sort of brought me to that place in the first place. and to really get to know myself. And in that process, I did really get to know myself. And I found a new joy for life and love for myself. Like Elizabeth was saying, I finally fell in love with myself during that time, really, and embraced who I was, all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And by doing that, by embracing it, it was like change, like alchemically. I think that's why Jung was so drawn to alchemy, because that is the process. It is literally changed from this, I don't know what it is, to more soul light, and this ability to express my true authenticity and remain, and like have this connection to myself and life that I was not able to maintain up until that point, and be consciously aware of it and realize the process and understand it to the point of basically doing this, going public and with it, and just wanting to encourage people, because it is the most amazing thing.
And that's so incredible that you're saying that in that way, because people hearing this probably would think it would be the most horrible thing you ever. What was
it? Was both. It was the most horrible thing. I mean, the pain I felt was the only time I'd ever felt pain that deep was when my father died when I was 7. And so it was the only thing that sort of came close. But I mean, the pain was so bad, I literally thought I was going to die. So I mean, yes, it's horrible, but at the same time, it's so liberating.
That's the thing.
It's so hard to describe, I suppose.
Yes, well, of course. And thank you so much for even trying to.
Yeah. There's a couple of things. I didn't have any visions like Jung did when he went through his dark night of the soul, but there was a couple of themes that kept reoccurring for me, and one was the phoenix, sort of burning my life to the ground only to be reborn again. That was a huge theme that was playing throughout my dark night of the soul. That and the Wizard of Oz. But I was north, and I always had the power to go home, but I had to go through this journey first.
And the good witch wouldn't let you go home easily, would she?
I had to experience all of those, all those characters in the movie are you.
Yeah.
Or that's what I felt was me. That was my journey to discover them, to meet them, and to be friends with them, and to overcome them, and to, all of that. And then to go home. I had the power all along to go home.
So it's interesting, because in you taking that time to know yourself, you found your darkness, but you also found this love. And without the love, this would be my question: how does one learn to love one's darkness? How does one even find the love? If you have, and I don't know all of your history, Christina, if you had a loveless childhood or if you had some love, because there are many people in this dominator culture that have never been loved, that don't know what love is, that have never experienced love. And this is a hard thing to ask people who have no self-love to enter one's darkness. So how did you find the love in there? It just showed up, or what happened?
So the thing was, my husband and I have been together 18 years, and he's the most unconditionally loving person I have ever met. And so his love was very similar to my father's, who I said died when I was 7. And so when my dad died, I experienced a tremendous grief. I mean, he was my world. He was my anchor. And when he died, it was just like, I can't even describe it. It was terrible. And that's part of what my shadow aspects were related to. But the thing was, I wasn't able to fully accept the love from my husband, because I didn't have it to that degree for myself. And honestly, I don't know how I found it in that dark night of the soul. I just know that I did. I just got to know me. And through that process, and through accepting everything I was and everything I'd been through in my life, everything I'd caused, all the pain, everything, I just had to own it. I just had to own it and go, okay, and now what? Now that I know, now I have a choice. Now I can move forward and in sort of one, in harmony with life and with those around me. And it's so interesting because, Jung talks about that, the individuation process of becoming one's true self. In order to fully enter into relationships with other people, that was the point for him.
We're gonna come back. Stay with us. We're going to find out how to do this together. We'll be right back.
Truth Frequency Radio Network.
Welcome back, Shadowland Voyagers. Your experience, perception, and questions are deeply appreciated here. Join the conversation. Call in at 213-233-3998 or 888-832-2027.
Welcome back. This is hour 2. Feel free to call in. We would love to have you be part of the conversation. So, we were talking about how do we learn to love one's darkness, and where does this love come from? And from my experience, as we traverse the Shadowland, we connect with the love of Pachamama, of Mother Earth. We become a part of the love that is through all the universes here on our planet. We recognize that we are that love. I remember when I did my dark night, and I would walk on the beach and just be sobbing and I could feel waves of love coming up from the ocean, coming up from the earth as she held me through all of it. And it was as palpable as anything I'd ever experienced. But if I hadn't broken open to that point, I never would have felt it.
I did a lot of cuddling with Mother Earth during my dark night. I had this Mexican blanket that I kept with me, and I literally would go to the beach and wrap up in that thing, my head included, just completely wrapped up, and just lay on Mother Earth, Father, Son, and I would lay there for hours. I would sleep. I would drift in and out of thoughts, and I feel like, just like you said, I felt so loved and supported, and that everything was going to be okay. I needed to embrace it, just to feel everything, to feel it completely, to not resist it, to let whatever I felt just move through me. That was a huge part. And during Jung's Dark Night of the Soul, he had a lot of visions and things, but one thing he had was a serpent appeared, and I guess he had to live with the serpent for a number of years, and he eventually journeyed down into the snake's lair and reclaimed the treasure that was hiding there. And at some point later on, years later, he realized that this treasure was the sexual, spiritual, energy buried in the earth, and that society had become so disconnected from the earth, the great mother, as he put it, that we'd lost access to our deeper power. And so he saw that the problems that we're having is a disconnection from Mother Earth.
Christina, you were talking about the serpent. I have a quote here. We can segue back into the topic.
Excellent.
Taking it in its deepest sense, the shadow is the invisible saurian tail the man drags behind him. Carefully amputated, it becomes the healing serpent of the mysteries. Only monkeys parade with it. That one. It's, this is bringing back so much of the energy of my time at the beach in the Baja, because I spent 7 years down there. I remember the depth of the pain that would break through. I think it's important to say that we are living in an artificial construct, a transhuman artificial intelligence that we are interfaced with, and that the process of individuation and transferring the Shadowland is traversing through all that is anti-life, is all that Bill Smith in the Matrix movie, all that is in opposition, is the domination of life, the control, the suppression, the vampirization, back to pure connection to the life force. So it's a process of transcending and purifying, and then birthing a new field with life itself, which is the opportunity of 2012. This is what the whole universe is conspiring to return us to a maximum jumpstart with the forces of life itself. But if we don't traverse through the Shadowland, then we're not going to really have the same outcome whatsoever. It's not. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's all part of the divine plan, and it's just perfect," and which in some great super yes, if you're looking at it maybe from the 13th dimension and then coming down in, but right here, I think that we're at an apex of choice, but we need to see what our choices are. And you've been speaking about it really beautifully tonight, both of you.
Thank you. And I wanted to say that you don't have to, you don't have to have a whole dark night of the soul. You can have a dark,
a dark
2 hours. Yeah.
A dark 2 hours.
Yeah. So, these come in little bits here and there. Sometimes they will result in a complete spiritual crisis, but we're given the opportunity to look at these things and go inward all the time. So,
we were talking about how the shadow side gets transmuted into love, and I wanted to make a comment about that too. What I did is I went through all these visions about just past visions of past experiences as a child. To see where that was born, where that decision was born, the one that's acting out in harm towards others. And once I found the location of the birth of that decision, I looked at that child at that moment and what was surrounding that child at that moment to have created a decision to that degree, or to any degree, but to that degree that I did. And what I did is I loved myself in that space where I was as a child, when I didn't receive love from an external source. And by loving that child for withdrawing from an expression of love into an expression of defense, I understood why I did that. And I understood why I carried it on into the current day affairs, day-to-day relationships. And once I did that, I started to love myself, because what I left in that space of deciding not to love or deciding to separate from love itself, what I left there were pieces of myself that were beautiful. And once I saw that was available, once I put love there, it made room. It kind of annihilates the defensive mechanisms of resentments and manipulations and all that stuff. It annihilates that intention and makes room for the flip side of that shadow to be expressed. Mm-hmm. All it really wants is that recognition that it wasn't loved in that moment of pain or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of what I did during that time was I did the same thing. I kind of looked back or felt back into the roots of my behavior patterns and ways of being that were out of alignment with life and love. And when I looked back to those places and found where they were created, I found acceptance for it. I just accepted them as part of my journey, as for whatever reason, I didn't need to know why, but it was an experience that I needed to have, and the person that was also having that experience needed to have, and that by holding on to this sort of negative feeling about it, resentment or whatever it was, I was trapping us both within that vibration, and so by embracing it, I was able to free both of us, and that's where the love kind of and the light kind of just burst forward when I was able to do that.
Yeah, I don't think we realize that when we're living from that, when we make something go unconscious like that, a behavior, defense mechanism, or what have you, we become vessels for other, shall we say, what Sienna was talking about with the transhuman agenda. We become vessels in matching vibration of any of the energies that are put out in an attempt to manipulate behaviors of the people. And so, literally, like the Mr. Smith thing, an energetic pulse is sent out to create disharmony, and you will hear disharmony run all through. Like, I lived in an urban area. I heard it go all the way up the hill with various different disharmonious acts, screaming and yelling, arguments, fights, baby crying, dogs barking. It just like kind of became like a rolling effect. Anyone who was matching in vibration of that energy stream was going to act out some kind of heinous behavior.
Yeah. Because that's how it works. Remember, the dark side has appeared to be winning for thousands of years. The people with the money, who are they? The people with the fame and fortune. What is it? It's it's like the dark ones, and have programmed the ego to go, oh, well, that behavior is what works. And in a world where a loveless world, where love creates huge pain and there's huge loss around showing up as your tender and vulnerable and authentic self, and then the whole world is offering, like Donkey Island, every distraction, every addiction, every false pleasure, every false reality, every transhuman mechanical device to pull you out of your reality and to interface, and everything's promoting it and packaging it and marketing it and branding it, and it's in your face everywhere, and the alternative is not, then of course, people, this is mommy and daddy. All of this dark garbage is, the big booby. We're sucking off of it. We're sucking in its toxins. We're sucking in its pollution. We're sucking in its frequencies to shut us down, and it's a cruelty. And so we learn cruelty works, love doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what the danger we're facing at this moment in time, this shift of ages, is we're going to be more presented with this opportunity for positivity. And so the danger of that is if you go from where you are, which is not completely fully integrated yet, to the positive, you will never bring those aspects with you. You will continue to repress those darker aspects, even the positive aspects. I mean, it's about bringing them both into balance, not choosing one or the other. And Jung was really big on this, was finding the harmony between the dark and the light and duality. And he was right on the money there.
Owning it all. Owning it all. Why? Because there is truth and there is illusion. There is a false self that's created out of an artificial construct that we're addicted to, and there's an authentic self that is created out of the energy of life. It's a process of death, a death to the false, and birth of the true. That is the dark night of the soul. That is this process of awakening, and it's true. I think that that the majority of the love and lighters that are out there that are going to the power spots, the sacred sites, they're going to be putting this false light, an unintegrated light, a light that they're taking from external sources. And I really would like to have an in-depth discussion with George about this very soon, as we've talked about, because it's so important. I would much rather have somebody who's clearly on the dark side, dark archetype, than a love and lighter who is espousing to be a true blue evolutionary soul who is overjumping all of this and refuses to face it, because they will kill you sooner than they will admit to breaking down their false image. They're living off of a false image, and everything's feeding a false reality. And they are clinging so hard to it that they will literally kill you to keep their image alive. I've gone up against this many, many times. And we are getting in epidemic proportions of people who are doing these yogic practices and these meditation practices and these bringing in higher dimensions and channelers and higher, supposedly higher lights and off-world ETs and interdimensional beings and even the plant medicine at time, and all of these sorts of outer lights that are, it's just a whole upgraded software of the same story, but instead of now the prison planet, now we're going to be the prisoners of the light workers, and it's very, very troubling.
Yeah. I didn't mean to laugh, but that's a good way to put it.
You might as well.
That's true. Bad. You know what I am? I'm a love and lifer.
Oh, cool.
I think what's happening, or what I'm starting to see, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't bring a political thing up, but it's the first thing I could think of that has to do with, this pendulum swinging in the other direction, is this new medical insurance system that is being proposed. And I think it's actually, is it in effect? Where we're required to have insurance?
I don't know the details.
It's like the universal care kind of thing. And
Obama, yeah, and you're literally going to be, it's going to be a crime punishable with huge fines. I think in prison, if you don't buy their insurance.
And this
the solutions are going to offer you. They're not going to offer natural healing as a part of that. They're not going to.
No, and this is an evolved way of providing medical services for the people. You know, this is the positive love and light kind of thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Because it still needs hierarchies to keep it going. You know, we're still going to be fined and I don't know. There's a lot of conspiracies. We'll have to see how it all works out in the end, you know, the small print. But at the end of the day, this is like a patch that is not made in consciousness in any way. It's just a way to say, see, we're doing good. We'll satisfy you just a little bit, and, you know, we'll take all the good stuff and you can have a couple of the dregs. But if you don't follow the rules, you're going to be fined and prosecuted and whatever else we deem necessary. You know, I don't have a job. Am I in trouble?
That's right. The Universal Health Care Act will be enforced by the IRS. Now, that's right from Sheree.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is a new Love and Light program that's supposed to take care of us. You know, welcome to our world.
It's so demonic, really, because when you have people who are suffering as much as many people are suffering greatly with the levels of oppression and toxicity and poverty and collapse and the lack of love and the what's happened to the human psyche as the transhuman disconnection, the separation that's everywhere. I mean, it is really, really challenging to be on this planet right now. And when we're sitting ducks for the love and light agendas, we are desperate to feel better. And you can't blame people for jumping on that. But it is it's just the pendulum swing to the other side. Nothing is going to change unless we voyage into what is authentic. We're calling it the Shadowland because so much of what we truly are has been demonized, made illegal, made immoral, made wrong, dirty, ugly, shameful. All the beautiful treasures that are in the Shadowland are the pieces of our souls that we could not become through all of these long years of patriarchy, this dominator culture. This is where the treasure trove we have is in what has been held in the darkness. That's where we reclaim all the beautiful gifts. I mean, you can hear it in Christina's voice when she talks about, I mean, there she is, you know, near suicide, giving up everything, wrapped on a blanket, and you can just hear the joy pouring forth in your field as you explode, because that's your authentic energy. That's where you found it.
It's true. I mean, I'm just so joyful because my whole life I wanted to be who I am, which is me. And I could never really completely be that. I could come in and out of it, and express it, but never even completely. And I'm still integrating. I mean, my goodness, there's still more, but I got such a huge part of myself back that I'm charging. You know, I've got enough of my authentic energy here, that I'm just, so happy. I'm just so truly happy.
Yeah, you can see that also you're very grounded integrous. In my workings with you, you show up, you get things done, you're functional, you're caring, you're dedicated. You show up in this gorgeous way that people who have not gone through the Shadowland, they can't because they don't have enough of them there to be that decent. You know, in my opinion, you're a thoroughly decent woman who I can count on and I can trust. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with your voyage to Shadowland.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't even really have words, but thank you. That means a lot to hear that from you.
It's true. It's true. Because how can you be consistent? Because the continuity of care can't be maintained when there's huge parts of your energy field that you are dissociated from because you're operating from unconscious programming from what I'm calling the construct, and that programming is based on serving self and in separation and serving the construct. It isn't about serving life. Okay, we'll be back. Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers, and I believe we have the beautiful Sheree on with us, and we are most delighted to have you with us, Sheree.
Oh, thank you so much.
We were just on about our tribute to Carl Jung and the effects of owning and not owning the shadow self. And I would be most open to hear your take on any of the topics that we have been opening tonight.
Well, absolutely. I don't actually know all that much about Carl Jung, but I do know that he paved the way for some very logical, very reasonable thinkers later on down the line, such as Ayn Rand. And that reason and logic are well and good. But Carl Jung took it even further and delved into parts of the mind that most people are very afraid to even look at. They don't want to look at those parts of themselves, and that's part of the reason for dysfunctional behavior in society in general. And I know Anna Freud had some problems with Jung because she believed, like her father, that everything goes back to sex, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that she lived as a virgin her entire life. So, she really didn't have much room to talk on that one. But I think that she was the polar opposite of Jung in that she was so afraid of facing her own shadow self and her own demons that she projected those demons onto the world around her.
Well, that's exactly how it works, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the world we're living in at the moment. A world full of people projecting their demons onto other people.
Well, and, even some of the biggest radio hosts, it doesn't matter really who you are. You have your own personal demons, and you've had your own personal hell as well. I mean, I know my dark night of the soul had to have been after I had my surgery, and I realized, we are truly alone in this world. I mean, we really are. In death and in birth, we are alone. There's really no way to get around your own thoughts when you're sitting there with an NG tube down your throat and unable to move. And it's that pain, I think, that transcends you through those realms of that darkness inside of you that you don't really want to face. And but those dark nights of the soul are necessary so that we can see how good things really are the rest of the time, and causes a lot of growth to occur.
So you went through a dark night with physical illness and injury, and you were in a hospital bed for a long time, or what?
It was about a week. It was about a week, but it was emergency surgery. They said that if I'd gone another week or two, then I probably would have died just because I had dead tissue inside of my bowel. And so they went in there, they took it out, and I didn't have health insurance, and they said it doesn't matter. We're gonna still do the surgery. And they had a surgeon in within a couple of hours, and I was in the operating room within 5 hours of getting there. And which, tells you a little bit about how serious it really was. And I didn't even realize how serious it really was until after the surgery. And I woke up and there's this huge scar going all the way from a couple of inches above my belly button down to my pubic bone. And it was then that I realized how disrespectful I actually have been to my body throughout the 29 years that I've been on this planet. And in the dark night of the soul wasn't really as much about pain as it was dealing with the disappointments throughout my life that had led me to treat my body in that way. And one of those being, my parents left whenever I was 2, and so I had a lot of feelings of rejection from that, of course. And you can go back to Freud if you want to, really look into that. But Jung made me feel a lot better when he talked about the archetypes and how we're all just playing out these roles, and not to take it personally, that we're all just kind of working out our own shadow work, and sometimes there's collateral damage, and sometimes we hurt the people that we love the most in the process of doing that shadow work and cleaning up aspects of ourselves. And through that long, dark night of the soul, I realized that my parents were just acting out archetypes that I had already decided with them long in advance. I believe in the Dolores Cannon theory that we all choose who our parents are going to be. We choose who our families are going to be. And we made a pact that, yes, they would leave when I was a baby, essentially, and that would have an effect, but that something beautiful would come later because of it.
Yes, it's in the contrast that we are shown the deeper light of our souls, often pulling off the comfortable veneer of everything being fine and hunky-dunky, and suddenly you're stripped. I mean, that's a huge trauma at 2 years old. You're still really deeply bonded, and those kind of and your mind isn't totally formed yet. So there is this innate infantile notion that everything is our fault, because we're the center of the universe as children. So we internalize a really deep self-invalidation. They died because I wasn't good enough. They left me because there's something wrong with me, and that can you can internalize that for a lifetime if you don't uproot that belief and find a way to bring to love yourself through that kind of thing. So and if this is a lifetime you were choosing to really dive into the depth of who you are, then choosing a trauma like that, although excruciatingly painful, would create a completely different sojourn through the life experience than if that had not happened.
You know, and I completely agree with you, and that's why I think I got into radio, even, was to prove to myself that I could do it, and to prove to myself that I am worthy, and I am loved, and I am needed by people. And then in the process, after the surgery, I realized, you know what, I do love myself. I don't want to die. I don't want to hurt this body that I have. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for me to suffer. And I am special, and I am doing a great job as a mother and as a wife and as a partner. I am worthy of that love. And until that point, I was constantly chasing after acceptance anywhere it was. It didn't matter if it came from a best friend or a boyfriend or what have you. And I think as women especially, we yearn for that acceptance so much that we defile our own bodies and pollute our own minds with negativity in just to try to attain that.
Yeah, we do. I think that the core of the female essence is love. And but we carry with us these kind of traumas from this lifetime and then all the way back, all the incredible things that's been done to the feminine. So there's a huge core of invalidation that has lots of traumatic experiences encoded in there. And so this makes us slaves to the matrix, constantly pursuing the outer for approval, constantly trying to find the man or the career or the something. We are driven to find this love, and we don't often understand it's within ourselves that the healing is, that it's always within ourselves. I don't know anybody, myself included, that's not addicted to that kind of acting out. But we do need, and now is the time for all of this illusion to be crumbling before us. And what we're left with is ourselves, which is an infinite pool of love and creativity. But unfortunately, it's sort of hiding even the love and even that love you had. Look what you had to go through to find that. Yeah.
Well, and I found Chris because I opened my heart to the world and decided to become an activist. And I thank the universe every day that I took the initiative to go off of antidepressants that I was on for 8 years and to start over. I essentially had to start over from scratch and relearn how to feel emotions again, and how to feel that happiness and not have it be supplied through a chemical put into my body. It was very, very difficult, but it took about 2 years for me to get off of those antidepressants. And then I met, it was almost as if as soon as I did the work, even just a little bit, the universe met me halfway and brought my twin flame to me. And we knew from the moment we were together that was it. So.
Wow. Yes, and that's so incredible. And thank you so much for sharing something that deep and that intimate and personal, because that takes courage too, to speak from that level of truth. What an amazing truth that you just revealed, that doing that work is what opened the door, not all this pleasing and getting Botox or liposuction or whatever, or getting the clothes or doing the millions of things that women do to attract a man into their lives. I think that I think plastic surgery is one of the where the most money is spent. They've done surveys of what a woman will spend money on, and I mean, above her health, above survival, above her food is plastic surgery.
Oh, see, no, I did I didn't get plastic surgery, but I did play the game of Madison Avenue and getting the fashion magazines and reading Us Weekly every week on the dot every Friday. I would get in my mailbox and read about all the latest celebrity news and all of that. And around 2007, I decided, you know what, this isn't working. And this is actually making me feel very sick. And it was when my son got sick from a vaccine that he got. It was an RSV vaccine, and it was experimental. Within a month, he had RSV and pneumonia and was in the hospital for a week. And after that, I decided to become an activist and look into all of these things. And then I woke up, as you would say, and my life has been changed ever since. I no longer think about celebrities, and even when everybody was freaking out over Michael Jackson's celebrity death, all of a sudden I didn't care about those things anymore. Those things didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was the little children in Gaza that were getting white phosphorus dumped on them. And what mattered to me was stopping the research into genetically modified food that had vaccines in them, and, you know, trying to fight this. And then I met Chris, and it's almost as if when you start doing the inner work to change the world, or at least change your perspective of the world, then the world provides you with everything that you need to move forward.
Amen. That's the secret. That's the big secret right there.
What you know.
No.
Right. No. Exactly. That the real goodies are in becoming real and serving life, because that is one of the huge ways that we transmute all of this fragmentation and all the illusion we've bought into and all the shadow aspects that we become complicit with, is that we serve life. We give of ourselves. We become the love here. And then we attract that frequency of love. And our whole world changes, one person at a time. Just as that beautiful story that you just shared with us, which isn't a story, that's your life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sheree. It's very touching and so real and beautiful.
Thank you for allowing me to. I'm an open book, and I've always been an open book. And even my grandparents used to say to me, "Oh, Sheree, you tell people too much about yourself. People will use things against you." You know what? I don't really care, because I think there's too many people out there that are going through the things that I went through back then that need to hear this, so that maybe it'll help them understand that they can change things about their life, and they can start to do that work even if they're on all kinds of prescription medications for their mental health. They can find that consciousness deep within themselves and bring it into fruition again. It's just remembering who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and those drugs, wow, I've been on and off of those many times. They are not easy to get off of. Whoa.
No.
They reconfigure your neurotransmitters, and when you pull those out of there, you feel, talk about, it just exacerbates all the symptoms you have.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nightmare coming off
Brain
of, and
shocks.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Did you get the brain shocks?
Maybe not brain. No, I'm not sure what that is. I don't think I did. What is a brain? What is that?
It is the number one most reported side effect of going off of SSRIs, and it's basically you get like a chill. You know how sometimes you get like ooh, I got a chill, and it feels like that, except it feels like lightning just struck your head, and it happens every 5 to 10 minutes at first, and then a few weeks later it'll go down to a couple of times a day, and then for the next 6 months it's a couple times a week, and it took about 2 years for it to completely go away.
Wow.
Oh,
but
God.
you have to persist. You have to push through it, because you can't stay on those your entire life. You just can't. I've seen people that have been on them for almost 20 years now, and they're zombies, and they like to act like they're normal, but you look into their eyes and they're not. There's something wrong when you can't dream. I've had these people tell me, I don't dream anymore. And I said, well, then you're not living.
Yeah.
If you're not able to dream, then there's something blocking that.
Yeah. Jung talked about that the dreaming, he was really big on dreams because he felt that the dreaming was your way, your subconscious way, the inner world's way, or the inner self's way of expressing itself, communicating. And that's absolutely right. If you're not dreaming, then your inner self is dead pretty much. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, it's dying in a sense. And and I think you can see this in the people that instead of responding good to the antidepressants, they may respond good for a while, but then it turns out that they don't have any emotion whatsoever. 9/11 could happen and they don't cry. The same person told me when 9/11 happened, they didn't cry because they were on Zoloft. And I thought, my God, what if nowadays it turns out 30% of the U.S. That's over the age of 18 is on antidepressants. My God, what does that mean for our spirituality collectively?
Yeah, this is just the slave to the Matrix again.
Yeah, like the Matrix loves that.
Well, yeah, they just use the energy because it's not embodied any longer, and they just have legions of slaves to work as sheeple robots in the system. And it's so sad because it's not anyone's fault, you get so beat up, then you go on these things that makes you feel a bit better, and then you're so addicted to them. Coming off of them is a nightmare. This is why we need to support each other. This is why we need a grassroots movement, places where people can come, like Shadowland Forum, like this radio show, to gain support, to speak with each other, to hold each other up through this, because coming out of this is not easy to do. And when you're still in a non-loved situation of incredible stress, it's almost impossible. So this is why community is so important, why grassroots movement is so important, where we take this back. But we need to support each other in this, because it is self-love that is the key. But sometimes you need somebody else to hold that love field till you even know how to love yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know so much that's what you created here at Truth Frequency Radio, a place of truth, because the truth does set us free. And when we can support each other in our truth, and when we can rip away the veil and talk as sincerely as you are, and Christine, Elizabeth, myself, not thinking we have to come up with some super slick answers, but that we keep peeling off the onion skin and reveal what the journey really is, and that you call in out there, listeners, and start sharing your journey, that this builds a whole different momentum of energy that then can create a completely different outcome in your individual life, but also in the life that we share together. I mean, this to me is 2012. This to me is the shift of the ages, is one person at a time reaching out to themselves and then each other in this authenticity. People who've taken the journey through the Shadowland. People who are willing to support you through your journey in the Shadowland.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that is why we created Truth Frequency Radio, so that not only would we have an outlet for such wonderful people such as yourselves to put their own stories out there and get information out to people, but also to start something new, something different in the alternative media that isn't as much about fear and hype and what should we be scared of this week, but rather how can we empower ourselves this week?
Exactly.
And we help each other this week.
And we can. We do have that power. And this, of course, is the thing that they don't want us to know. I mean, everything keeps telling us we don't. Everything that they put out there, all the artificial construct, is continually making us feel we don't have any power. And it's game over. Now we are really waking up to that we do. It's so amazing, really. It's so amazing, and it's so amazing to find other people, and women in this case, with the courage to voice this kind of vulnerability, because people demonize you for your weakness. If you show weakness in the construct, you're less than. You lose your positioning. You lose your fame, you lose your ability to make money, you lose your position to move upward, because we are all supposed to stay false and keep competing with each other in the endless hunger game to get somewhere. And there's nowhere to get. It's all false. There's nothing there. But still, it's so easy to be addicted to a false reality or drugged reality, or someplace to even numb and escape the pain through any means possible.
Religion. It even includes religion.
Yeah. Yes, religion. And the external, the God, that we cannot alchemize our own shadows. We need God to do it. And I just want to say that is total jive. We do not need God to alchemize our shadow, to become integrated, to become whole, to make the quantum leap into the new humanity. We do not need a false God. We do not need to give our reality to any God, because the true God is the life force that is trying to individuate through us, that is having this experience as us, that wants us to step up and mature and take that responsibility, so that the fractal of the creator that we are gets to manifest as a full individuated individual. That was what Jung was talking about. He knew that. It's individuating from the addiction to God the Father, in this case, and even God the Mother, but it's been God the Father for thousands of years, that this daddy, that this government, this authority, that this all-powerful, that we give ourselves up to, and he's going to take care of us. It is total lie.
Mm-hmm. And the truly spiritual person will tell you that saying that I have to go to church in order to talk to God, or I have to talk to God through a priesthood or through somebody else, is like saying Britney Spears is the only one who can tell me I can sing.
Is this the final?
Yeah, it's our closing music. Thanks, everybody. Great conversation.
Shadowlandforum.com. Come back next week. We're going to have an increased guest. Bless you all.
Longing to leave, but begging to feel that something will make you stay. Gotta believe that this all leads to somewhere we've never been. We won't run, we can fight. All that keeps us up at night. There is far to go now. Let's not started listening to everyone else. Casting this devil, I've got the metal, means to make things right. Tired of guilt, tired of being sorry. Haven't we suffered enough? We won't run, we can fight. All that keeps us up at night. There is far to go now. Let's not waste a minute more. We won't run, we can fight. All that keeps us up at night. There is far to go now. Let's not waste a minute more. But oh, that our eyes will be open. 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 We won't run, we can fight. Oh, that keeps